Good evening. There we go. That wasn't really energetic. I need some engagement tonight. Good evening. There we go. I like it. I like it. I like it. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's truly a pleasure to be here. And before we start tonight, you all deserve to give yourself a round of applause. There we go, there we go. I'm pretty sure you're all wondering why you're clapping, but you all deserve a round of applause because you represent the hustle and fortitude that is the foundation of small business. So one more time for yourselves. Let's hear it, let's hear it, let's hear it. There you go, there you go. Well, sorry, I had to get myself. My name is Desmond Varner, and I am the CEO, founder, president, janitor, secretary, director of finance, director of sales of my own startup business, Kingpins, Buttons, and Apparels. And what that is, it's an affirmation through a fashion statement. And it was all started off with, $35 of birthday money that my grandmother gave me. And when I told my parents about it, they were like, what are you talking about? You're wasting your money, But I'm here today, so apparently I'm doing something right. But in other words, I'm the opening act. And there we go. Thank you. So basically my job is, get you guys ready and warmed up for Zach, who's coming up pretty soon. And just a story about how I met Zach. I met Zach my very first day of my internship with the City of Norfolk's Department of Economic Development. And as soon as I walked through those doors, I'm like, what is going on here? Like, if you think of business incubation, first off, I didn't even know what that was. And then I see, guys in, Bermuda shorts and t-shirts just typing away on the computer. I'm like, wow, okay. And then it's crazy because as soon as we started conversation, we almost instantaneously clicked. And ever since then, he's always had his office doors open for me. He's a personal friend, brother, and mentor to me. He's also the Fitbit wearing. The Fitbit wearing, TV appearing, knowledge sharing, business preparing, always swearing. You need to watch your mouth. Son of a gun. But most importantly, he's my friend. He's my brother. So everybody give your loudest, your proudest, most passionate introduction and welcome for Zach Miller!
Thank you. Good job. Watch me. 23. 18. 32. About 1 year ago, many of you were sitting in this room, and we were hyped. We were stoked. 18 was the number that we were super excited about. In August of this year, we received this report from a group called the Kauffman Foundation. They're the preeminent directory of startup activity in the country. And every year, they put together this thing they call the Startup Index. In 2014, we were doing okay. Michael Jordan's number 23. Last year, we moved up several spots to 18, above cities like Washington, D.C. Richmond, Virginia isn't on the list, and everyone here was super excited. Well, when I opened the report in August, I said, whoa, that's a big drop. Not only did we drop from 18 to 32, but this was the biggest drop in the entire report. This report looks at things like startup density and rate of new entrepreneurship, and it rates the top 40 or so different markets in the country. Now, what market are they looking at? Well, they're looking from Williamsburg to Emporia, Eastern Shore, all the way down to northeastern North Carolina, just like the media market is here. And so when they're looking at this report, when they're looking at this data, they're ranking cities above each other. And so like anyone, we gave them a call. And we said, "What's up?" And at first, I think they were shocked because I don't think anyone's ever called them. And I'm like, "Hey, we do this event. Last year we were super excited. We saw that we dropped a little bit. Can you tell us why?" And they said, "Well, you actually didn't really move numbers-wise on your data. Just 14 other cities jumped you." So this year, we didn't lead anything. We were the waiters. And if we want to be leaders, we cannot let people be jumping on us. Cannot let people and communities do more than us. So tonight, that's the facts. I think it's our responsibility to give you guys facts. We're not going to sit up here and be like, everything's great. But what we are going to give you guys tonight is an action plan and how we can get back up and hopefully be a top 20 market again. When I opened this, I think we ended last year saying, hopefully we're a top 10 community. So I'm looking at 10, don't see it, 20, don't see it, 30. Maybe we're so good, they're not gonna have a list for us. But we get to 32. And honestly, it sucks. But we have to be realistic. So why are we here tonight? So entrepreneurship is something that a lot of people are talking about, not just in this region, but all across the country and all across the world. And 3 years ago, I kept seeing all these people talk about entrepreneurship and business, but there was no real directory or data point to look at and say, hey, where are we, or what are we even doing? So we started reaching out to different cities and said, hey, what new businesses are starting in your backyard? Which ones are failing? How much money is being invested in these companies? And a lot of the cities never provided us with the data, didn't have the data, so we said, let us do that. So 3 years ago, we started this event, the State of the Startup Community Address, so that we could showcase the good or the bad, or in last year's case, maybe the ugly, that this is something that not just tonight, but throughout the entire year, and as years continue, we can show where we were and where we're going to become. We're still going to have fun tonight, I hope.
Always.
Thanks, Des. And tonight we're going to do something we've never done before, and as far as I know, no one else in the country's ever done this either. We're going to crown the Small Business Championship belt to an individual who is a business owner, but also is a champion to the small business community. We're going to hear from all 5 of them tonight, and a little bit about what they do day to day and what they think a champion is themselves. The 5, in no particular order: Brian Wells, Express Transportation Services. You guys can stand up if you want. Why not? John Porter of Handsome Biscuit. I don't know if I even saw him yet. There he is. Maya Houlihan, House of Maya. Xerxes Nabong, Escape Room Virginia. And Bo Turner, 757 Makerspace. So as we go through the next few minutes, we're going to talk about where we were last year and how we can improve this next year. We will end by giving out the championship belt. Immediately following the address and before the belt, we will take questions, a handful of them. We'll hand you a microphone. You guys can ask from there. All of this would not be possible without some really amazing friends of ours, partners of ours, especially this great company, Dominion Enterprises. Many of you guys met them outside. They're really the company that I think doesn't get enough recognition in this area, and I'm really not just saying that. They have some of the most amazing brands in the country, and we're going to learn a little bit more about what they do from a culture perspective. It's also a business perspective throughout the night. So thank you to all of our partners for this lovely event. So, what happened last year? What are some good things that happened this past year? So, we talked about a lot of things: funding, office space, the maker movement, the sharing economy, craft, alcohol, and the meetup scene. These are things that we talked about at last year's address. We are not going to go into super detail about these tonight, but we're going to show you a couple that continue to soar this year. We talked about the educational meetup scene, where people go to an event like this, where they can learn how to grow a business, start a business, or maybe learn the skills that are necessary to find a job somewhere else. We also have, for 3 years, been talking about the maker movement and how people are using their hands and tools to make really interesting things throughout the community. We're now going to hear from our first finalist, Bo Turner, and tell us a little bit about the maker community, as well as what a champion means to him. Bo, take it away.
A maker is someone that takes an idea and continues to take that first step forward to figuring out how something works, how to be able to make that, how to create that, and more importantly is, later, maybe how to turn that into a business idea or an opportunity. Being a champion, what this means to me is someone that overcomes adversity with limited means. It could be limited funds, limited knowledge. They are a champion when they step up to the plate and they make that thing happen. 757 Makerspace is a community workshop and studios. It gives us clean space to be able to work with a co-working environment, as well as a large warehouse full of tools to be able to come in and make anything that you can imagine. Bo Turner, CEO and Creative Director with 757 Makerspace.
Thank you, Bo. So we're going to see 4 more videos tonight. One of those individuals will win this belt. And then we'll do it again next year and the year after that. What was interesting when we were deciding to do this, we said, well, let's do something a little different. Let's give out not a piece of glass or let's give out something that's really unique. So we're really excited to be giving away this tonight, and we'll see who gets that later tonight. I think only like 4 or 5 people know. All right, what major milestones did we accomplish this past year? Dominion Enterprises sold their Dominion Media division this past year. Something I think many entrepreneurs would love to be part of. And I think it's something that we, not only as a region, but as a community, need to talk a little bit more about. When we start businesses, we probably have some sort of end goal in place. And I know that if I could potentially sell Hatch, I'd be super stoked about that. So, if anyone is interested, we can talk. Our good friends up north from CIT. How many of you guys have ever heard of CIT? So they are a state-led financial company that invests in a handful of companies each year. What you probably don't know, and why many of you don't know about them, is their track record down here historically has been terrible. They've invested in one company down here in I think the last 7 years. Well, happy to say that within the last 12 months that changed, and they invested in Notaris, an Internet of Things company, to help them escalate their business. So we expect, wherever you are, Marco, that more deals like this will continue to happen over and over. So congrats to both of those groups doing things that are probably out of the norm. So a lot of you guys have been drinking tonight. That's great, thank you. When you drink too much, remember to tap that app and take Appacab home. Now, Appacab, they have innovated a really old kind of way where you get in a taxi and you go home. But what's cool about this is they literally have an app, and if you want to know how to get home, you tap it, and just like Uber or Lyft, they'll get you home, but it's the local version. They've completed 176,000 rides. So, a good track record there. We left here last January wondering if the Hillier Fitness Park would even get built. we're happy to say that it has been built. They moved it down a couple of blocks, and now it's opened and thousands of people have used this fitness park. Remember in year one, we talked about Facebook naming our region as one of the fittest cities in the country. And just recently, through the Norfolk Innovation Fund, Embody secured a $150,000 loan that gets to be able to get paid back, I believe, in about 10 years. That's the first of its kind, not only in our area, in Norfolk, but in our area. A lot of people talk about cybersecurity. The hottest company in our area tied to cybersecurity is a company based out of, I believe, Suffolk, Sarah Bryn. They were named the 7th hottest startup in cybersecurity this past year. And about this time, 2 years ago as well, a little group called the 757 Angels started. Last year, they had infused about $3 million of capital into local businesses. And this year, you guys wrote a lot of checks. So they did $12.4 million in the past 12 months into 4 different companies locally. And I think together, they've done 10 or 12 deals in the region since starting, so that's really good. And the average check that they're sending or investing in different companies is actually higher than the national average as well. That's all great. All of these milestones are wonderful, but we still dropped 14 spots. So we need to continue all of that and more. But we also have to figure out what to do next. If we continue to be stagnant, if we continue to just wait for something to happen, guess what's going to happen? Nothing. So while you guys spend an hour or so here, afterwards, let's get back to work. We need to do more than just embrace entrepreneurship. That's really what a lot of our community has been doing, is just embracing it. But really, we got to get the gasoline and put the fuel on the fire. We need to empower entrepreneurs to be able to be successful. 60% of businesses have 5 employees or less. 60%. But to be honest, the majority of articles that you see in the paper on large national publications, on TV, all you hear about is the big companies. But the majority of them are actually small businesses. And because of digital and internet-based companies, we're seeing these companies are actually leaning and trending towards being smaller and smaller. So while those 60% of companies have 5 employees or less, I would beg to say that we're going to continue to see that number maybe even drop, and that's okay. These companies can be nimble. They can focus on very niche industries, and they can scale and expand very quickly. And that doesn't mean that they have to do that with people. So what's the action plan? What can we be doing over the next few months to hopefully increase that rating back up, but then also understand as a community that we don't have to just be building a community anymore? On your chairs, we provided you guys with an action plan that each of you can take home and use throughout the year. We call this the 4 big E's. They are end big game mentality. For those of you who came to the Startup Address 1, we call this no whale hunting. We were being a little nicer this year. Number 2, expand the definition of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship needs to be defined, and who really are entrepreneurs? So we'll define that tonight. An educational first approach, and finally, elevate the role of experiences. So, it says put down the harpoon. Anyone have a harpoon anywhere? No? So historically, whale hunting or big game hunting is when an economic development group comes together and they take tax incentives and invest that money, your money into a company to recruit them to their area who has zero ties to that area. So you might be saying, well, I don't know a lot about that. Well, this industry is a $50 billion plus industry. It has a 10% return rate. So you start putting some of these stats together, you realize that maybe we shouldn't be focusing on this. We gotta stop picking winners and losers and instead invest it all around. And as we said earlier, if the majority of companies are 15 employees or less, what are we doing to take those companies and increase them to make them a little bit bigger? Some of you that run a business know that it is better for you to keep a customer than it is to get a new customer, right? It's the same mindset as this. So what do we have in our backyard that has a couple employees, that's doing well, that we can increase up? I don't know about you, but when I go to the casino, I don't like to do that. I don't put all my cards, all my money on one hand. But yet, our economic developments are putting bets on one hand. You've seen it recently in the last 6 months. Instead, distribute that money equally to several different companies, and we'll show you guys how to do this. And let's be honest, you're not going to outsmart the market. One really interesting way that big game hunting or economic developments have increased the idea of starting and growing new business is the incubation model. Many of you might have gone through an incubator, but data says that to start an incubator, you're looking at roughly $2 million to start that, and $1 million a year to run an actual incubator. And if you want to be honest, you're kind of handpicking in that game as well. Instead, how can we take, again, a vetted amount of businesses and give more capital distributed out? Another very interesting concept that is coming out, or that has come out, through the Downtown Norfolk Council is a thing called Vibrant Spaces. It started, I believe, as a brainchild of Drew Unvarsky of Grow, where he bought a building and didn't know what to put in that building next to his. And so he reached out and had an application and said, I'm looking for someone to fill this space. John Porter filled out that application and said, I'm interested in maybe putting a business here. Well, he opened a company called Field Guide. It's a restaurant and bar, just a couple blocks down the street. But what's interesting about this is that went so well that they then did it for 6 different companies and gave a small amount of capital, about $20,000, and half off rent to those 6 companies for the next 2 years. So eliminating the huge amount of risk and really distributing capital and some other incentives to try and see who might be able to grow from there. And another business that's been growing very quickly in our region, I believe has 7 storefronts and is opening an online-based business as well, is Maya Houlihan, one of our championship finalists. And what does a champion mean to her?
A champion to me is somebody who brings their A+ game every single day, despite the adversity and challenges that they are being faced with. I believe a champion is somebody who can get knocked down and pick themselves right back up again, brush themselves off, and keep on going. And they can do that over and over and over again. And to me, a champion is somebody who is inclusive and surrounds themselves with people that allow them and enable them to do the great things that they want to do. Maya Houlihan, President and CEO, House of Maya Bridal. Trying to be in all those locations at one time. I think the biggest challenge of owning multiple locations is that you have to be a little bit more hands-off. You have to really put a lot of faith and responsibility into the people that you choose to work with you, and it can be hard spreading yourself so thin.
Thank you, Maya. None of the... I didn't let any of the finalists see these videos yet either, so they're all seeing it for the first time as you. So what is entrepreneurship? I think forever people have just said it's those people that run companies. And yeah, that's true. But it's more than that now. The high-tech companies, the Facebooks, the big companies that you see all the time, those are entrepreneur-led companies, absolutely. They're very important. The biotech companies, all of that is important. We're not saying it's not. The penguin trying to fly is like that. But the folks that are at Cure Coffee House, the people that are at 1701, the people that are at the Launchpad, those are freelancers and hobbyists. And they may be doing some side work to maybe be able to fund a bigger concept that they have. And historically, we haven't thought of these people as entrepreneurs. Yet, they're finding business and figuring out how to be entrepreneurs too. And maybe, in a lot of cases, building up that capital so that they can make that business a little bit bigger. So instead of going to maybe a bank who's probably not going to give you the money anyway, because you don't have any collateral to go against it, or to another organization that might say they're going to give you money, but again, a lot of entrepreneurs aren't in the capabilities to fundraise from these organizations. They can start building capital on their own and start self-funding themselves. Many of you guys read the paper this morning and saw that even in Virginia Beach, this is happening with a company called Airbnb, where the gig economy, how many of you guys know what the gig economy is? Everyone? No. So, you guys have heard of Uber and Lyft and Postmates, places where these large tech companies find people that can provide services to them in return for capital. So if you post something on your Facebook marketplace and you sell that, you're an entrepreneur now, especially if you start flipping those things over and over again. If you ride with Uber, or you have an extra room in your house and you start making money off of that, you're now an entrepreneur. So much that many cities across the country and in our region are forcing those individuals to get business licenses. Some are making like $40,000 and $50,000 a year just renting a side room in their house. So not only are they entrepreneurs, but now they have a funding source that they didn't have before and don't have to work on by trying to go put together a business plan from someone who's not going to give them money anyway. And of course, the mom and pop shops, the retail shops, the Main Street Americas, those are still insanely important. But I think what's interesting is they're starting to use digital technologies to help run those processes. And what's really cool is when you see the bookstore down the street that says, man, I'm gonna go out of business if I don't use Amazon to help me grow. And so, we're gonna hear from John Porter on how he has been able to grow Handsome Biscuit and also where to find different experiences in your own town.
Champion is someone who does not give up in the face of diversity and seemingly unending pressure, and also generally tends to make the right decisions. John Porter, I'm co-owner of Handsome Biscuit. A good place to sort of find out about unique, interesting spots, maybe hidden spots or at least local gems, is to talk to folks who work in restaurants and bars. So belly up to a bar and talk to a bartender and they'll give you the inside scoop.
So 3 down, 2 down. 2 to go. Education first approach. Now, when I went to school, I hated school. I hated learning. But as I grew in my business career, I realized how important it was to be able to learn on my own time. And I think it's so important for many of us to do the same. So when we say education first approach, what we really mean is to educate in people first. You don't want someone starting or growing or expanding a business if they have no education behind it. So many people come up to myself and say, hey, I'm in this place, but I don't know what to do next. I think I need money. And then that $10,000 that they invested from someone, it goes away really quick because they didn't even know where to go next with it. So by investing in humans, investing in people first, we're able to continue to grow those people. And really, people are becoming a jack of all trades. And they have to be, because education is interdisciplinary. So no one knows one thing and that's it. People are learning a multitude of things. When we talked about who the entrepreneurs were before, I've seen many people that were all of those in one. And that is okay. We talk often about recruiting people to an area. And that's fine, but what are we doing to enhance the people that we already have? What are we doing to take the thousands, the tens of thousands of jobs that we have and just make them a little bit better? Because they're passionate and they want to be there and they want their employers to help them as well. Or maybe that employer wants to learn as well. And one interesting thing is that when you put yourself into a creative culture, you're putting yourself in spaces that are out of the box. So the arts districts, the crazy conferences and events that you go to are actually good for people because they're being put into a more culturally diverse environment. And because of digital technologies, education is now scalable. Now, there's still the historical universities and other places to get education, but that's kind of like whale hunting too. You're kind of hand choosing and hand picking who's going to win. So why not try and help the thousands of businesses with just a handful of employees? Many of you guys know that Hatch has been doing this for a few years with the tool we call 1004. Which is to help start and grow thousands of small businesses. And we're super excited that several people in this room tonight, businesses and organizations like the Launchpad and Swim Nerd, saw him somewhere, there he is, 5th highest Kickstarter funded in Southeastern Virginia, Swim Nerd, and many others as well. What's also interesting is on top of Hatch, there's been several other organizations like Pixel Fest, who we learned about last year, right here, that was thinking about putting on a gaming convention right here at the Slover Library. They were hoping for a few thousand people to attend. 5,500 people, I think, attended this weekend-long competition. Kids of all ages and adults too. It was an insane event, and this year they're trying to get about 7,000 people as well. And that event will be in April of this year. Our next championship finalist is Brian Wells, who also, on top of being an entrepreneur, has also brought together young professionals together in an organization that he calls P40. Brian, what does a champion mean to you?
A champion to me, it means somebody who's resilient. It's not always going to be easy, especially in entrepreneurship and anything in life. If that's marriage or if that's a relationship, there's always going to be ups and downs. So being resilient and making sure that you're there for the long haul, and knowing that times are going to be tough sometimes, and if you're going to be able to see it through, that's going to really be a testament if you're a champion or not. Brian Wells, owner of Express Transportation Services. Some of the challenges as a business owner that I've seen is, really for me, being a family person, is designating time and making sure that I'm having a work-life balance. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you're 2 feet in and it's you're going 100 miles an hour every day.
Thank you. Something that we touched on a little bit last year was the role of experiences. We talked about the iFlies and the Top Golfs of the world that were now maybe second and third tier companies that were starting to build these businesses in our backyard. What we've learned is that people are spending money now on experiences. What I mean by that is they're not necessarily building and buying these big shiny things. They want to go experience something now. Now, you're probably wondering, Zach, what the heck is an experience? And that's fine, but you live in a backyard that's filled with experiences. The Virginia Beach oceanfront is a huge experience. But what other things can people do instead of just go to the beach that we can enhance on? In other cities, they might call this a museum that you go to. Why don't we have more museums that people could go to that could tell a little bit more about our culture? People are now going to breweries to get experiences. They're getting concerts at these experiences. They're going to places like an escape room where they can solve a puzzle with their friends or maybe their business partners. They're playing games like knocker ball. And no, I will not put that on in front of everyone. They're going to a rock climbing wall. You noticed people are still spending money. They just want an experience out of it. And if you're a business owner and you're wondering, well, how can I enhance the experience? Reach out to your current customers and see what they're looking for. If you're an online business, maybe you're like Zappos, who used to throw in an extra pair of socks, or just call the customer afterwards and said, hey, how'd this go? Or you're at Chick-fil-A and what do they always say? See, you remembered. That experience is important. We're seeing fundamentally that businesses are very unique. They're not just squares anymore. They're all shapes and sizes. And to really talk about experiences, we're going to have our final championship finalist, Xerxes Nabong of Escape Room Virginia. Are you ready?
Xerxes Nabong, owner of Escape Room Virginia Beach. I did an escape room in February 2016 in DC, and really enjoyed the process and enjoyed the experience, and wanted to bring something to Hampton Roads area that we didn't have already here. And did some research and found that we had yet to bring an escape room to the area, and I just really had such an enjoyable experience. I wanted to bring that to all the residents and tourists of the Virginia Beach and Norfolk area, and decided to open an escape room. The champion is someone that fights hard for a cause that he or she believes in, and for me that's trying to be the best business out there, whether it's the escape room industry or providing a team building experience for people and small companies. We're always looking for ways to improve how we do business for our customers.
And if you guys didn't, they have a small sample of what an experience could look like at Escape Room Virginia with 2 locations now as well. So what Xerxes didn't say in this video is that after he went to DC, he thought about buying into the franchise. But he decided that he could take a little bit of capital that he has and start this business. And he liked the results that he got and decided to open a second one just a few months ago at the town center in Hampton. So who knows where the next one will be? Xerxes. And maybe you'll allow dogs at the next one too. All right, so that's the 4 big E's. Ending big game hunting mentality, the education-first approach, elevate the role of experiences, and to define and expand the definition of entrepreneurship. So we talked about the Kauffman Foundation. We talked about why we dropped 14 spots. We were stagnant. If you guys want, you can get on Twitter and hashtag Stop Stagnation Now. Or you can just sit in your chairs and allow 14 other cities to jump us next year, and maybe we won't get on the report. So what can you do? Entrepreneurs, focus on growing your company. Thank you. Honestly, if you don't focus on growing your company, you won't be able to help out the other people that need you anyway, right? I think all too often, entrepreneurs are forced to do something that they can't do because they don't focus on growing that company. And the one thing we want you to do is grow your company. Also, when you're in a meeting with someone and you can talk about ending whale hunting, please do that. Also, talk to your customers and the people on your team and figure out what experiences not only they want, but also that your customers want as well. Employees, super important. As an entrepreneur myself, if I didn't have a team, I wouldn't be here tonight. Empower those employees, empower those teammates to be creative and build, which will help you grow. One of the best companies I've seen do this is Dominion Enterprises. Joe Fuller and I were joking earlier, what startup addresses this? 6? I said, no, it's 3. We'll get to 6. And then Chuck Williams said, oh, well, what hackathon is this for you guys? 60? And no, it's 13. But they invest in their employees. They understand that they might be at this level or at a level really high, and how can you get them higher? So they do this by bringing in very skilled training professionals to help them grow. They also, several times a year, do internal and external hackathons to try and solve problems that they might be seeing in their business, or by using other technologies that are being used across the country. So if you're wondering, as an employer or an employee, what to look at a company like Dominion. Community supporters. This one I'm very serious about. How many of you guys have ever rated something on Yelp or Facebook, Google? A lot of you? Not a lot of you. So, if you have a bad experience, before you start putting that 1, 2, or 3 star, try and ask for a manager. Call the person who owns the business. We all have bad days. That ranking could completely kill a business. And you think I'm crazy? Well, this person didn't even eat at this place and left 2 stars. Maybe even 1 star. 1 star. But yet, that algorithm is going to say that this place isn't that good, and they didn't even go to it. Give real results. I'm not saying to just give 5 stars, but I'm saying when you have a bad experience somewhere, let the person know. Because if they don't know, they can't fix it. Now, if ultimately they're jerks to you, give the bad rating. But don't just give the rating because something went bad. And leaders, those people that can help change policy and spend our tax dollars. Make it easy, make it easier for what you want those entrepreneurs to do. Remove the red tape. Also, go experience those businesses. And so that red tape can also be ribbon cuttings, hopefully for the expansions of other businesses. And invest in the education of these businesses first. The Franklin Business Center recently introduced a concept called Startup Downtown Franklin. And what's cool about that is that they are going to take a series of applications and potential companies into this acceleration platform. And at the end of several weeks, those that they deem fit after an educational platform are going to receive up to $40,000. So they still are providing dollars, but they're making sure that the money that they're spending is hopefully in better hands. And also an event called Start Peninsula, which several economic developments on the peninsula have come together and investing in the education of potential entrepreneurs on the peninsula. I was a judge this year, and we saw people from Richmond all the way down the south side as well. So it's really become a place where many businesses can figure out if it's what they want to do. Now, for those of you that have been to all 3 of these, I think you'll realize that each of these is really plugged into each other. And so for years, people have been saying, we get everything you're saying, but what are some takeaways that we can really live by each and every day? And so we've really focused on that this year so that we could give you something to expand upon and live on each and every day. So we might have dropped 14 spots. It is what it is. But we're not going to drop 14 next year. Hopefully we grow. Hopefully we go out and look at all the resources and the capital that's being thrown out, the people that are taking risks, the people that are driving in an Uber to make a couple extra bucks, that they can take that to try something else. putting all those things together, I made this bet last year, I'll make it again this year, that we're going to increase. It's probably easier now that, 32 to 18. But that's it, right? If we want something to happen, if we want an action to happen, we have to go after it. So thank you guys for being here tonight. We'll take a couple of questions, and then we'll give out the belt. Questions? When you're done with the question, please hand the mic to someone close to you. We'll take 5 or so.
So Zach, we dropped 14 spots this year. Do we have our hands around the data that they use to compile those results, and how much input do we have in actually driving that data? Is part of it maybe a lack of action and lack of filling in forms or sort of providing the right data, or is it kind of a passive gathering that they do that we really have no control over?
Yeah, so we don't have much control from what we've talked to them about. So I don't know that if we were, it's not like fill out more applications, fill out more forms, and we would get better results.
Do we know what the data is?
We do have the data. We've gotten the data. We've asked them to go into it. And so when we reached out to them, we were like, why did this happen? And it was interesting because, they said you really didn't move at all. And about the same in others, but all these other places moved up. So we can take that data and look deeper, and we'll provide it out. It's also readily online. So it's in their hands from a data perspective, but we can, increase those things as well. Jeremy, did you?
Okay, did any data points stick out at you as things that are actionable daily for entrepreneurs in the area? Like, were there like 3 things, like, hey, focus on these things?
One data point, not just with Kauffman, but overall, is that the rate of new entrepreneurs that are started and the diversity of that is very interesting. We're actually pretty high up on that list, and in one report, not the Kauffman report, we're 6th most diverse community in the country.
Pretty cool.
Throw the mic to Bo. Here you go. Here you go. I got 10,000 steps while I was doing this. Hey.
Thanks. So tying into what Jeremy and Paul had both said, what is that actual data point? Like if we talk about entrepreneurs, we don't have to sign up and get registered. There's not an official tracking database. Where does that come from?
Yeah, so the 3 things that they track.
Not just track, but where does that actually come from? Like who reports that? How does it come up?
So, well, let me tell you the data points, right? So they are startup density, rate of new entrepreneurs, and the opportunity share of new entrepreneurs, right?
So defining that as a new business. So they're tracking business that launch within cities, economics. Your head's shaking, yes, no.
Look, I'll spin this my way, right? It's a data point, right? Is it the data point? No, right? Is it a data point that we should be going after? It's well respected, okay? So is it the only thing that's going to define this region? I hope not, right? But I do think that at times people can look at things and say, well, we were up, like at last year, people were like, well, how are we at 18? That doesn't seem right. Right? And the same questions came up last year. Well, what do we do to get to 18? Right? Well, they take these rankings and we look at them, and they're basically the report that is well respected off the #1 entrepreneur group in the country. And so maybe we go back and dig deeper into them. What?
So what are the top 3 things?
The top 3 things again. Startup density, right? So the amount of startups to capita. Rate of new entrepreneurs, so what are people starting? And the opportunity share of new entrepreneurs, which is the diversity piece that I was talking about. So we're high in that and low in that. Startup density, we're very low. I think we were very low on that one. And I think that makes sense. We'll dig deeper, Bo. Chris, and then Brian. Anyone else that way?
In relation to the startup density, like you said, it makes sense with the military here. Obviously, there's whatever percentage of the population that's tied up with a day job / maybe transient and not going to invest in an area that not going to be here forever. So that's obviously makes it probably hard to fulfill that part of the equation. But maybe there's something the military does or can do to help enroll people in the process once they get out.
Yeah. I mean, look, at the same time, census data doesn't collect military data, right? So that has something to do with it. But we said this last year. If the day that Hatch started 6 years ago was ground zero, we're on year 6 of starting new businesses, and really people go after those things, right? So for us to even be in a top 40, we should be excited about are the things that we can go to these organizations and try and dig deeper and try and really make them look at us? Absolutely, and we will.
My question is, how can we get on education? This one? How can we get entrepreneurship education into the school systems?
I agree. Well, launch programs. You got Virginia Beach does an excellent job of that. And some of the other communities, but it's being done as part of your K-12 education. Where we lack the stuff is what's being done at the college level. Are they teaching people who really more or less work for somebody or be entrepreneurial?
So the question was, what can we be doing to educate people to be more entrepreneurial? I think that several school systems in this area are attempting and trying, and we'll get better at that, right? But entrepreneurship 10 years ago was a 4-letter word, right? So we have to realize that this is still something new too. And people really don't know until they get into it. So I would encourage every lemonade stand to be there. So Chris, you talked about the military, right? So there's a group called the Kauffman Foundation that is trying to take active military and get them through more of an entrepreneurial ecosystem before they get out so that they can be prepared when they get there. If someone wants to learn how to, well, Desmond's right here, right? So he found a place that had nothing to do with his school and learned how to be an entrepreneur himself. So how can we figure out more ways to get Desmond, you can sit down, Des, again. How can we find more ways to that, right? So my biggest worry is when he started selling these pins for $3 that his teachers were gonna actually tell him to stop, right? They haven't yet, or at least the last time I've asked, but at some point someone's gonna put the red tape up. And so we have to show them that the lemonade stand that they want to start, that the pins that they want to make, we have to embrace that and encourage that, or those that we are bringing up, even younger than you, Des, aren't going to know what they could and could not do. And so if you could pay for college, not through scholarships, but through selling buttons, that'd be pretty cool. Any other questions?
Yes. Is this thing on?
Most days.
All right, maybe you can hear me without it. I know that each and every industry has its own variability as far as what lets it thrive or what are the key touchstones. However, I know that there are similar characteristics of failures, people's businesses and ventures not really succeeding. From your experience over the last 6 years, what
that's very simple. Businesses fail because people are lazy. Right? Here's the rant you guys wanted, all right? This is Kenya. He last year was working for a huge business, broke a bone, and said, I need to do something better for my life. And said, what am I good at? Called his friends, talked to his family, and said, I'm good at washing cars. He left an $80,000 a year job to do what he was best at and said, I can continue to do this, right? That's one example. If you want something, go after it. I had an opportunity, thanks to Jeremy Alessi, 2 years ago, right after this event, to become the host of a TV show, because the person that we were trying to sell his business to said, hey, I'm thinking about starting a TV show. Who could be the host? And you know what I did? I raised my hand, because I control everything I want to do in my life, no one else. And when someone comes up to me and says, how do I do this? I said, who have you called? Who have you introduced yourself to? What have you done to try and make something happen? And you know what the majority of the time those things are? Nothing. I'm waiting for that person. Oh, I signed up on Yelp. I don't know why anyone hasn't come on through the doors, right? If you want an action to happen, you have to do it. You know what Kenya did to get one of his first customers? Kenya, how tall are you? He's pretty tall. He knocks on a random stranger's door and says, I see that your car's dirty. Can I wash it? To me, he wanted something, and he went after it. He replaced an $80,000 a year job that only 16 months ago he didn't know that he could do. But he understood that if he wanted it, he could control his own destiny. And I think that is a perfect place to end this tonight, and let's give out a belt. You guys ready? So, the small business champion goes to an entrepreneur who also believes in growing others and other businesses in our area. We have 5 finalists: Maya Houlihan, House of Maya Bridal, John Porter Handsome Biscuit, Bo Turner 757 Makerspace, Brian Wells Express Transportation Services, and Xerxes Nabong of Escape Room, Virginia. Now, when we named the finalist, it was really interesting. We're down at Hatch, and I'm like, I have no idea who's going to win. Because each of them not only had a really awesome business, but also had a huge community of followers behind them. And so the way that we had the winners chosen was by a vote of individuals, their peers, those in the community. And we saw close to 1,000 votes. And honestly, one day was really high on one person, and then one day was really high on the next. And it was really interesting. We didn't really look at the final until the last 2 days. And it was just interesting to see that there would be so many votes for someone when they would maybe promote it on social media. And then they didn't promote it that day, the next day, and then someone else would and come through. So it's really cool to see how many of these individuals not only have successful businesses, but also such strong communities behind them. So once again, let's give a round of applause for them. Where'd the mic go? So we've told, so no one, the winner does not know, but we did tell them that if they want to say something, 60 seconds or less, they can. So, I'm sad giving this thing away. I wore it over here. It's nice and shiny. We hope that this person represents this championship belt. It's theirs to keep forever. Next year, we'll get another one, and we'll find another champion. And the person who wins can win every year. I hate those places where that person can't win year after year. So, the 2017 Small Business Champion is Bo Turner, 757 Makerspace. Yeah. Bo, would you like to say anything?
Sure. One, thank you. This is a great honor. I really appreciate the opportunity. It's a wonderful community that we live in. It's even better with great people like you that stand behind people like me. 3 years and 3 months ago, I took something that was just a simple idea. I pitched it at Start Norfolk, and it's come through to help many other businesses, many other people. Sometimes you got an idea of something simple. You might decide that you want to cut a bookshelf. You might want to make something small with your kids, or you just want to learn something new. Those become business opportunities that you can grow, and this should be yours for next year. Thank you.
All right. Congrats, Bo. Good job. Put on the belt, wear it. If you guys ever walk into the makerspace and that is not hanging, let us know. Bo, congratulations. Oh, boy. We thank you guys so much for being here tonight. It's not about 1 hour here. It's not even about, Bo, I'm trying to say something like.
I feel like we need to sue.
You want to, no. It's not about what some report says. It's about continuing to try and grow. We ask that you guys continue to be the backbone for our community so that we can continue to grow. I'd also like to thank my team who helped me put this together. Honestly, there's no way I could do this without them. Dave, Paul, Deanie, wherever you are. Thank you guys for putting this together. I think I said this last year, but we mean it this year. This is the last year at the Slover. We're looking for bigger locations. If the Slover wants to expand, we'll happily be here. But just like you guys did to me, we're going to tell the truth. Because if we don't tell the truth, we can't get better. And we want this community to be the best. Right? When I said I opened that report and I saw that we dropped, it hurt a little. But I knew that we had to tell the facts, right? And if you're looking at your business and you're wondering why isn't it doing what you want it to do, maybe you should be like Kenya and knock on someone's door. Thank you guys for being here. We'll see you guys next year. We'll be here till 8 o'clock. So please feel free to continue eating the food and drinking the booze.